keep investing and improving this spot illustration as we go. So we've been looking at hard edge color. And now we just played in the last video with soft edge color. You can see two examples of the Hulk with soft edge color. Now, what is the difference between these two? This was after digital coloring and before digital coloring. Digital coloring allowed for much broader color and saturation because it was printed on coated paper, on clay-coated paper. So that started in the 90s. Before that, all comics and most print materials, like even advertising materials, were just done on newsprint paper. And newsprint is not bright white. It's kind of a brownish. So you can see how that really changes the coloring. But now that we can do more saturated color, look at all those variations of red in the flames. That allows for more soft-edged gradations. Whereas duotone, which was earlier, is a limited color palette. Like this. So, what's after soft edge? Well, if we go to the assignment, we look at our little lemon sheet. Where was that? There it is. So, we just did duotone soft edge. And you can see how many yellows you can get, variations on yellow you can get when you soft edge it. So it's a little bit more complex, or has the potential to be, than just hard edge. So this is my soft edge color. Right? This is actually all soft edge. This is soft edge with the duotone kind of blended into it. And I'm liking that. Now, what's the next approach? It's called full spectrum color. So let me zoom in on this so you can see it. So full spectrum color, how is that different than soft edge? It's different because now it's not just variations of yellow. There is purple in there. There is green in there. There are other color hues in the spectrum for what used to just be flat yellow. And so that is called full spectrum color. This breaks the boundary of what you typically see in digital coloring, so this is why I'm calling it special effects. Everything we do from here on out. And it's all optional for your project, but you do need to be able to recognize full spectrum color. This is full spectrum color. You see how in soft edged it was just variations of orange, variations of the peach, variations of the blue, variations of the magenta. When you get to full spectrum, now the orange has different colors in it. It has reds, it has deep browns. The skin tone has pinks and purples in it, right? It's really pushing. And I would say it's a little overdone, honestly. But if this was the flat color, right, full spectrum brings different colors into each of those things. Because that's how color theory works. If you're lit by a red light, that red blends in with your skin color, with your hair color, with your shirt color. It's kind of inspired by the Fauvist movement, a French late 19th century movement. This is kind of what Henri Matisse painted with, where you would have kind of skin tones broken into really strong saturated colors. And then their shadows would be the opposite on the spectrum. So orange light would give you blue shadows, for instance. So this is not very subtle in how it's shown here. But let's look at it done really well. And I'm using Wonder Woman again because of the primary colors. So on these examples of Wonder Woman, she has different colors in her skin tone. It goes from yellow to purple, right? And through pink. You can see the flush of her cheek, the yellow highlight, the purple shadows. Other things might just be duotone, like her sword is still pretty much duotone, and then the blood is its own duotone. But her skin, that's where it's using full spectrum color. Even her hair, you'll see different purples in the highlights. And this kind of mixes that yellow of the glare reflecting off of her bracelets into her skin tones, which are again yellow and purple, into her cloak, into everything. This is an interesting comic where they just use soft edge duotone color for Wonder Woman, but then for the Hydra that she's fighting, they use full spectrum color. Because if they didn't use full spectrum color, it would really just be green and yellow. And so by breaking up those yellows with pinks and greens and browns and rust colors, they make it feel a lot more painterly. This is pretty subtle, right? But this version of Hellboy, who's just a red figure, right? Look at all the variations of red. You have purplish reds, you have orangish reds, you have brownish reds, all mixed together. And it makes it much more dimensional, much more than just soft edge duotone could do on its own. And then this one does a really nice thing where it has yellow for its highlights. It mixes yellow into every color, the skin, the shirt, the pants, and then it has blue for its shadows. So the blues are heightened across all of it. Same thing here. You have actually warm shadows. And then less subtle full spectrum is where you just really, really push that warm, cool difference. So here on this boat, even though it's all of the same material, right? The highlights are bright yellow, the shadows are deep purple. Those are opposites on the color wheel. So that's just going through the full range. You go through the oranges, you go through greens, you go through blues until you get to the purples. Batman, the gray suit, like bringing purples and pinks into that through the blues makes it a lot more dimensional. Now, the more kind of intense and painterly you get with the color, the less important the line art is. So notice, as the coloring gets more extreme, like this kind of watercolor effect of the coloring in the hair, the line art has to get thinner and thinner. Because if you have dimensional line art that has lots of shadows in it, like Mike Mignola's line art, and then you add full spectrum color, it can get just really confusing. It's kind of overdone. So the thinner your line art is, and the simpler your line art is, the fuller you can experiment with your color. And these are big digital coloring experiments here. All right, that leads us to the next thing. How do you do full spectrum color on your illustration? How do you play with it? I like to be really simple, because basically that means you can paint any color anywhere underneath your black lines. But I do it this way. I turn off my backgrounds. I turn off my offset. I turn off the line art. So this is what's in between my slices of bread so far. These are all my condiments, my cheese, everything. Then I'm going to click on my topmost visible layer, hold down Option, and say Layer Merge Visible, just like we did when we animated. It combines everything into one layer. So what color should I make my soft tones? My soft edge, I'll make that green, then I'll lock it. And now I'll turn all of these off. Okay? So you see, this is all of that combined into one layer. And with the dissolve and with the blur of the soft edge, this is what I get. It's almost like spray paint. And I really like it, but that might be a personal taste thing. Now it's all in one place. That's how I like to do my digital coloring. And when I put my black bread on top, it contains it all. And when I put my white bread on the bottom, I have full digital coloring. So by making a copy of all of it together, I'm now going to call this full spectrum. And I'm going to turn it on gray, and I'm going to turn on the offset, and I'm going to turn on the black line art. Right? I might even turn on my color references. And you'll notice that none of my color references are using full spectrum. That's duotone hard edge. This is mostly flat color with very subtle duotone hard edge. This is duotone hard edge. This is duotone soft edge, but very subtle, just in that transition from the red to the yellow. So I'm going beyond those, right? And now we're playing with kind of what I call special effects. So now, how do I do this? I double click on it to open up layer styles. Same way we did an offset. And this time, I do a gradient overlay. And that gradient overlay, like the full spectrum examples I showed you, I want it to show a full spectrum from warm to cool. So this doesn't really do it. Let's find one that does. I'm going to go to, let's see, iridescent. And I want something that goes warm to cool, like this, right? And then along it, I can reset my things here. I don't want it reflected. I want it linear. And I want to change the direction, maybe this angle. And then I want to customize this. So I can add colors to this. So let's go through the spectrum. I have yellow. Let's go towards the oranges. All right, let's make it a little bit more saturated so you can really see this happen. Make these colors a little bit more saturated. Then through the reds. And I want you to play around with this gradient tool. It's going to help us when we're doing type design next. And then go through the blues. You can even go through the greens, but let's go through the blues first. Then the greens. You don't have to use every color in the rainbow. I'm just really making a point of it. And then to the purples and the violets before we get to the indigos. And once you have this gradient, right, you can stretch it, you can play with it, you can modify it. All right, so right now, that's kind of silly to do it at full opacity because it's replacing everything I've already done. But at lower opacities, it will blend into it. And if I take dissolve off, though I really love dissolve, you'll see kind of the subtlety of that full spectrum and how it can affect the image. Now, sometimes it will counteract the color because these are yellows here and I have purple in the shadows. Look how it just turns it into gray. So it can take some tweaking, but let's play with this. So I'm going to set it on linear mode, about 51% opacity, and I'm going to change it to dissolve. And then say OK. And then when I look up close, you see what that does to the color. Now I have all these different colors mixing in. But I can also choose where is it helpful, where is it not helpful. And I'll just do this really simply. I'll make a duplicate of it, lock the one underneath so it's there. This is at 100% opacity, and I'm just going to use my eraser. I'm going to use my eraser at a low opacity, soft edged, and then I'm going to start. Oh, I got to turn on, sorry. Got to turn on my layers underneath to reveal it. So where do I want this color? Where do I not want this color? Right? Let's make it even softer. Because it can start to look kind of like a disco ball or a holographic sticker with the full spectrum. But that's quite a change. And I like some of what it's doing. And I don't need to have it on dissolve, right? I can always set it to be normal. Just like any of these layers I can set to be on normal mode instead of dissolve. So that is full spectrum color. You see how it's mixing like yellows and blues together in the greens. Whether it's subtle or whether it's really strong. I think I also want to erase it away from here so I get kind of the yellows of the siren right there.